I want to start with something I've observed countless times in life and in business. We live in a world where we are told to hustle, to keep pushing, to achieve greatness. And yet, so many people are silently battling with something that keeps them from reaching the very heights they are capable of. It's not always lack of talent. It's not always lack of resources. It's not even the environment. More often than not, it's weakness within us, weakness of discipline, weakness of consistency, weakness of belief. And the tragedy is, we rarely realize that this weakness isn't just holding us back, it's actively working against us. It's trying to conquer our destiny before we even get there. Simon Sinek often reminds us of the power of starting with why. And if we apply that idea here, we have to ask, why is it that weakness has so much control over us? Why do so many talented, intelligent, and ambitious people end up with unfulfilled potential? It's because weakness doesn't show up as a monster we can see coming from miles away. Weakness is subtle. It whispers. It negotiates. It justifies. It tells you that one more hour of sleep won't matter, that missing one opportunity isn't a big deal, that fear is a sign you're not ready. And slowly, without realizing, we let weakness write our future. Think about it. Every great destiny, whether it's building a company, leading a movement, writing a book, or simply becoming a better human, starts with an individual decision to rise above the weakness inside. Weakness thrives when you give it space, when you tolerate it, when you feed it with excuses. But destiny, your destiny, requires you do the opposite. It requires courage. It requires discipline. It requires that you stop negotiating with weakness. I've met so many people who tell me they want success, they want fulfillment, they want to leave a mark. But what they often really want is comfort and security. The two are rarely compatible. Destiny isn't built in the comfort zone. It's forged in the fire of discomfort, in the hours of doubt, in the moments when it feels easier to give in to weakness than to stand tall against it. Let me tell you something about human beings. We are wired to avoid pain and chase pleasure. That's biology. Weakness takes advantage of this wiring. It convinces us that the pain of effort, the pain of failure, the pain of discipline is unbearable. And yet, if you look at those who have truly conquered their weakness, they will tell you that the greatest pain of all is the regret of never trying, of never becoming what you could have been. Simon Sinek often says that leadership is not about being in charge, but about taking care of those in your charge. And if you think about it, conquering your weakness is an act of leadership, self-leadership. You cannot lead a team, a family, or a movement if you cannot lead yourself past your own fears and limitations. Self-leadership is the foundation of destiny, because before you can inspire others to follow you, you have to inspire yourself to fight for your own future. Destiny is not something that just falls into your lap. It's something you pursue, something you earn, something you craft. And along the way, weakness will always try to slow you down. But here's the truth: weakness is not permanent. Weakness is not a life sentence. Weakness is a test. Every time you face it, you have a choice to let it conquer you or to conquer it. There's a reason why so many people admire resilience. It's not because resilient people never feel weak. It's because they face their weakness and keep going anyway. They wake up tired, but they show up. They feel fear, but they move forward. They failed, they get back up. That's how you conquer weakness, through consistent, deliberate acts of courage. And here's something I want you to understand: conquering weakness is not about never feeling doubt or fear again. It's about training yourself to act in spite of it. Simon Sinek teaches that when we know our why, discipline becomes easier, perseverance becomes natural. So the real question isn't just, how do I conquer weakness? The deeper question is, why must I conquer it? Because your destiny is at stake. The life you want, the impact you want to make, the people you want to serve, all of that is waiting for you. But weakness stands as the barrier between you and it. If you give in, you trade your destiny for temporary comfort. But if you rise above it, you unlock the future you were meant for. I'll give you an example. Look at the greatest leaders in history. Every single one of them had moments of weakness. Moments when they doubted themselves, when they wanted to quit, when it felt like the weight of the world was too heavy. But what separated them was their decision. They chose not to let weakness dictate their actions. They understood that if they didn't master their inner battles, they would never win the external ones. Weakness tells you to wait for the perfect moment. Destiny tells you to start with what you have. Weakness tells you to stop when it hurts. Destiny tells you to keep going because growth lies on the other side of pain. Weakness tells you that you're not ready. Destiny reminds you that nobody ever feels fully ready. But those who start anyway become ready through the process. And I want to be clear, this isn't about perfection. It's not about becoming someone who never struggles. It's about becoming someone who refuses to be defined by their struggles. Weakness may knock you down, but it's your decision to stand back up that shapes your future. Simon Sinek has this beautiful way of explaining that fulfillment comes from being part of something bigger than ourselves. When you think about conquering your weakness, it's not just for you. It's for your family, for your friends, for the people who look up to you, for the lives you're meant to impact. When you conquer weakness, you give permission for others to do the same. You become an example of what's possible. Think about the ripple effect. When a leader conquers their weakness, the whole organization grows stronger. When a parent conquers their weakness, the whole family feels empowered. When you conquer your weakness, your destiny expands beyond you. It becomes a legacy. But weakness will not disappear on its own. You must confront it daily. You must decide every morning who is in charge, your weakness or your will. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, every time you choose courage over fear, every time you choose to keep going when you feel like quitting, you are conquering weakness, and each small victory compounds. Over time, those choices shape your destiny. So, what do? We start by identifying the patterns of weakness in our lives. Where are we letting fear hold us back? Where are we choosing comfort over growth? Where are we negotiating with our excuses? Awareness is the first step. Once you see your weakness clearly, you can no longer pretend it isn't there. And when you face it, you rob it of its power. Next, we redefine our relationship with struggle. Instead of seeing discipline as punishment, we start to see it as a path to freedom. Instead of seeing discomfort as something to avoid, we see it as evidence that we're growing. Simon Sinek often says that the goal is not to be perfect, but to be better. And that's exactly the mindset we need to conquer weakness. Not the pursuit of perfection, but the pursuit of progress. And then we surround ourselves with people who lift us higher. Weakness grows in isolation, but strength grows in community. Find people who remind you of your why, who challenge you when you settle, who call out the best in you. That's how you build an environment where weakness has no place to hide. At the end of the day, conquering your weakness is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong journey. But every step you take strengthens your character, sharpens your vision, and brings you closer to the destiny you were created for. Simon Sinek says that leadership is about creating a world where people feel safe, inspired, and fulfilled. Imagine if you lived that way for yourself. If you created a world where you felt safe enough to face your fears, inspired enough to rise above your weakness, and fulfilled enough to pursue your destiny without compromise. That's the kind of life worth living. So I want to leave you with this thought: your destiny is waiting. It's not waiting for the perfect conditions. It's not waiting for you to feel fearless. It's not waiting for your weakness to disappear. It's waiting for you to decide, will you let weakness conquer you, or will you conquer it before it robs you of your future? The choice, every single day, is yours. Weakness often disguises itself as something small, something harmless, and that's what makes it dangerous. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It sneaks in through little compromises and seemingly harmless decisions. It shows up when you say you'll do something tomorrow instead of today, when you convince yourself that one excuse is valid, when you let comfort outweigh growth. Over time, these moments pile up, and suddenly, the life you imagine for yourself feels distant. The most powerful thing about weakness is not how strong it is, but how silent it is. It works in the background, shaping your behavior, influencing your choices, and limiting your future without you even noticing. Think about how often people blame external circumstances for why they aren't where they want to be. They'll point to lack of money, lack of opportunity, lack of support. And while those things are real challenges, the deeper truth is that most people are not defeated by external obstacles. They're defeated by internal weakness. The voice that says you're not ready, the feeling that you don't belong, the temptation to settle for less than what you're capable of. That's what robs people of their potential. If you don't recognize weakness for what it is, you'll treat it as normal. You'll think it's fine to give in every now and then, to stay comfortable, to ignore that little tug in your heart reminding you of what you could be. But weakness doesn't need to conquer you all at once. It only needs you to tolerate it, to allow it space in your decisions, to let it guide your actions slowly over time. That's how it builds its power. And if you're not careful, by the time you realize what it has taken from you, your destiny may already be slipping away. Conquering weakness begins with the recognition that the greatest battle you will ever fight is the one within yourself. Every person who aspires to do something meaningful in life must face the question whether they can lead themselves before they attempt to lead others. It is tempting to think leadership is about titles, positions, or authority, but in truth, leadership is first about mastering your own fears, your own doubts, and your own excuses. Self-leadership means choosing the harder path of discipline when comfort feels easier, and it means making decisions that align with your long-term purpose rather than your short-term feelings. When you practice self-leadership, you stop letting weakness dictate your actions. You no longer wait until you feel motivated to begin. You act because you know why it matters. You stop negotiating with procrastination, you stop tolerating excuses, and you start building the resilience that destiny demands. The irony is that many people want to inspire others without realizing that the most inspiring thing they could ever do is to conquer their own weakness. Others are not moved by words alone. They are moved by seeing someone live out the courage and discipline they talk about. True leadership, as Simon Sinek often explains, is about responsibility and service. When you take responsibility for your own weakness and rise above it, you become more capable of serving others. You become an example that shows it is possible to overcome fear, to endure struggle, and to move forward even when it isn't easy. Self-leadership is the foundation of every destiny worth living. Without it, dreams remain distant. With it, you create the strength, clarity, and influence to pursue your future with conviction and to inspire others to do the same. Destiny is never handed to anyone. It is built piece by piece through choices that often feel uncomfortable. Weakness will always push you toward what feels easy, what feels safe, what feels certain. But those choices never lead to growth. Discipline and courage are the currencies with which destiny is purchased. Discipline is showing up even when you don't feel like it, repeating the small actions day after day that slowly shape your future. Courage is taking steps forward even when fear screams that you are not ready. Together, they form the foundation that allows you to break free from the grip of weakness. Every meaningful achievement comes with resistance. The body resists when you push it to grow stronger. The mind resists when you stretch it to learn something new. Life resists when you step outside of comfort and into challenge. That resistance is weakness trying to protect its territory, but it is also the signal that you are on the path of transformation. Without resistance, there is no growth. Without discipline, there is no progress. Without courage, there is no destiny. The mistake many people make is waiting until they feel fearless or motivated to begin. But motivation is fleeting and fear never fully disappears. Discipline bridges the gap between where you are and where you want to go, while courage allows you to walk across that bridge despite trembling legs. Destiny favors those who act in the face of fear, not those who wait for perfect conditions. The truth is, progress often looks ordinary in the moment. Waking up early, practicing daily, taking the next step when no one is watching, but compounded over time, it becomes extraordinary. Discipline and courage, applied consistently, turn weakness into strength and potential into destiny. Weakness feeds on isolation because when you are alone with your doubts and fears, they echo louder. Left unchecked, those voices convince you that you are not capable, that you should stop, that no one will notice if you give up. But when you surround yourself with people who hold you accountable, who remind you of your potential, who challenge you to rise higher, weakness loses its power. Strength grows in the presence of encouragement, support, and shared struggle. The people around you shape your environment, and your environment shapes the person you become. If you want to conquer weakness, build a circle that demands your best, not one that accepts your excuses. Consistency is the other weapon against weakness. It is not the occasional burst of effort that defines your future, but the daily commitment to doing the work even when it feels small, even when progress seems invisible. Each decision to persist adds another brick to the foundation of your destiny. The victories may feel minor in the moment, choosing to practice instead of procrastinate, pushing through one more repetition, writing one more page. But compounded over time, they transform into unstoppable momentum. Weakness cannot withstand consistent action. It thrives only when you quit. The truth is, community and consistency together create resilience. A strong support system keeps you focused when you want to give up, and daily habits keep you progressing even when inspiration fades. Over time, this combination builds a character that is unshakable, a will that is untouchable, and a destiny that is undeniable. When weakness tries to return, it finds no place to hide because you've built strength, not just within yourself, but also in the people and patterns that surround you every day. Your destiny is not written by chance. It is written by choice, the choice to rise above weakness, to practice discipline when it feels easier to quit, to summon courage when fear is loud, and to keep moving forward when comfort tempts you to stop. Weakness may whisper. It may try to persuade you, but it has no authority unless you give it permission. The life you dream of, the impact you want to make, the legacy you want to leave, none of it will come from giving in to excuses or settling for less. It will come from the moments when you decide that your purpose matters more than your fear, your future matters more than your comfort, and your destiny matters more than your weakness. And when you make that decision not once, but every single day, you don't just conquer weakness. You create the future you were born to live.